Hello, my name is Linda, and I'm 37 years old. I work from home, and my husband Jonathan and I have been happily married for 5 years. While we don't have children yet, our dual income household has afforded us the opportunity to enjoy life's little pleasures, such as traveling and dining out. Since I started working remotely, I've taken on more household responsibilities, which allows Jonathan to focus fully on his career. On weekends, he helps out around the house, and together we found a nice rhythm in our marriage. Jonathan and I met on a group blind date, and it was his warm and inviting smile that caught my attention right away. After dating for 3 years, we decided to get married. Jonathan has been a constant source of support, always lifting my spirits with his endearing smile. Despite the joy in our relationship, we faced some challenges, particularly when it comes to my in-laws. Jonathan's family owns a successful pasta shop, established 17 years ago by his father after he left his corporate job. The business flourished, expanding with multiple locations across the city. When I first met Jonathan's parents, they were dressed in flashy designer clothes, which gave me the impression that they cared more about making an impression than reflecting their personal style. Our first encounter was when Jonathan and I visited them to share the news of our engagement. From the start, I could sense their disdain. They made it clear that any daughter-in-law would suffice as long as she could manage household duties and stay out of trouble, and they didn't hesitate to imply that I lacked the fortune they expected in a match. Jonathan immediately stood up for me, which led to a slight shift in their behavior. It was clear they were straightforward people, a trait often found in those in the culinary business, especially in pasta shops. Thankfully, Jonathan has been consistently supportive, offering reassurance and standing by my side. Even though Jonathan and I share a deep connection and the security of knowing we can rely on each other, even if I were to lose my job, interacting with his parents can sometimes strain our happiness. However, I've chosen not to let their opinions affect me too deeply, especially since Jonathan has apologized multiple times for their rude behavior. He reassured me that our interactions with them can be kept to important family gatherings. It seems that Jonathan has had a long-standing strained relationship with his parents. His father, a stubborn man who struggled with conventional jobs, became rather arrogant after the pasta shop took off. He would often interfere with Jonathan's career decisions, demanding respect due to his role as the family's financial provider. Jonathan's discomfort with his parents led him to move out when he started college. Although he is grateful that their financial support helped fund his education and allowed him to land a prestigious job, he's kept his distance ever since. He hopes to repay them, but he prefers minimal interaction. Since our marriage, I've had limited contact with my in-laws, which has worked out due to the absence of children. Our lives together have been content, but lately my in-laws' business has been struggling financially. In the past, their pasta shop thrived simply on good food, despite the gruff demeanor of the owner. But times have changed. Social media and online reviews now play a crucial role in shaping a business's reputation, and their shop has suffered from numerous negative reviews. Customers have complained about the owner's curt attitude and the untidy service from the staff. It seems that their early success led to complacency, which has now cost them dearly in terms of both customer satisfaction and business viability. What was once a thriving business has taken a steep downturn. Their dishes, once celebrated, were now being compared unfavorably to instant ramen. Negative reviews piled up, damaging their reputation, but instead of adapting to the changing times, they clung to outdated methods and attitudes. This ultimately led to the closure of all their locations, including the flagship restaurant. Realizing the severity of their situation, they reached out to Jonathan in desperation. "Please help us," they pleaded. "At this rate, we'll be out on the streets." Jonathan, who had seen this coming, responded with a mix of frustration and wisdom. "It didn't work out, did it?" he said. "I warned you that arrogance would have consequences. You must understand that customers are paramount. If you treat them carelessly, it will come back to haunt you. You dismissed my advice as naive before, but this mess is of your own making. You need to reflect on your actions." His words, though stern, shocked me. It was unlike the kind-hearted Jonathan I knew. I knew Jonathan's response was driven by his deep love and concern for his parents, but his firm stance spoke to his admirable character. It made me fall for him all over again. Despite their pleading, Jonathan stood his ground, telling them that relying on us wouldn't address the core issue, namely their attitude and approach to business. Crushed by his blunt refusal, his parents left, only to return a month later, visibly defeated and stripped of their luxury possessions. They had even sold their branded goods to settle their debts. "Please, Jonathan," they begged, their pride swallowed by desperation. "We have no one else to turn to." Jonathan stood there, arms crossed, contemplating the situation. I could feel a wave of conflicting emotions. Though I had never been particularly fond of my in-laws, seeing them so humbled and desperate stirred both pity and reluctance in me. It was a stark reminder of the complex nature of family ties and the challenge of balancing support with not enabling poor decisions. Watching them in such dire straits sparked something within me, and I felt compelled to suggest, what if we send them a monthly allowance? Both Jonathan and his parents looked at me in surprise and disbelief. "Linda, are you sure?" Jonathan asked, his voice tinged with astonishment. I nodded. "You've always wanted to repay them for helping you through college, right?" Jonathan hesitated and then slowly nodded. "Well, I might have mentioned something like that." His parents, sensing an opportunity, bowed their heads deeply. "Please, Jonathan," they pleaded. "We'll work hard to pay off our debts. Can you at least support our living expenses?" After a brief moment of contemplation, Jonathan agreed. At first, he decided to transfer $3,000 monthly to them. But as the weight of their situation settled in, I suggested we adjust that amount to better help them stabilize and rebuild their lives. "Maybe we should consider increasing it to $3,000 a month," I said. Jonathan was hesitant at first, insisting that $3,000 was enough. But I persisted. My career had grown beyond my regular job, and I felt we could afford to be more generous. Over the years, I had become quite skilled at investing in stocks and real estate. My efforts paid off, and I accumulated significant wealth, enough to purchase luxury apartments and generate a substantial income from rentals. Unbeknownst to my in-laws, my annual earnings had reached around $580,000, giving me considerable financial flexibility. I chose to keep this information private, especially from them, as I funneled extra money through Jonathan to support them. It was as much for his peace of mind as it was for their financial aid. During one of their visits, overwhelmed by our support, my in-laws expressed their heartfelt gratitude. "Jonathan, thank you so much," they said. "Thanks to you, our life is slowly stabilizing." Seeing their genuine appreciation and witnessing the positive changes in their lives was deeply satisfying. It reinforced the power of generosity and the importance of family support, even in the toughest times. Jonathan's parents' gratitude initially brought him a visible sense of joy. We both hoped it would motivate them to find work and start repaying their debts. However, a month passed and they still hadn't secured any employment. Instead, a more pressing issue began to emerge. They started visiting our house frequently during weekdays. "Our food expenses are mounting, Linda. Could you possibly spare us something to eat?" They began asking, often around lunchtime. At first, they would simply eat and leave, but more recently, they lingered, lounging on the sofa after meals and even requesting desserts. One day, feeling the strain on both our pantry and my patience, I asked, "Is this arrangement working for you, or would you prefer some adjustments?" My work was beginning to suffer due to their constant interruptions. "I've been working too, so I'd appreciate it if you didn't stay too long," I told my in-laws, my professional responsibilities increasingly compromised by their extended visits. They exchanged looks and chuckled dismissively. "Work? Aren't you always at home? If you're going to lie, at least make it more believable," they teased, soft chuckles escaping their lips. It seemed that, due to their long history in the food and beverage industry, they couldn't grasp the concept of remote work. I tried to explain it in detail. "Remote work means I operate from home, using my computer to complete tasks, just like I would in an office," I clarified. They waved me off, uninterested. "We don't understand all this computer stuff," they admitted, clearly not willing to put any effort into understanding. No matter how clearly I outlined my busy schedule, they remained indifferent. "Linda, we're out of tea. Hurry up and buy some. Don't you have any snacks? Prepare some rice crackers or something," they demanded, as if I had nothing else to occupy my time. Their criticism grew personal and harsh. "Such a useless daughter-in-law for a housewife. You're inconsiderate," they said, not realizing the impact of their words, nor their failure to follow through on their promises to work and repay their debts. This situation underscored a growing tension and a glaring misunderstanding of boundaries and professional commitments in our family dynamic. Despite their assurances that they were actively searching for jobs, my in-laws continued to encroach on our home during the day, always leaving before Jonathan returned from work. Perhaps they felt guilty for relying on his financial support, or maybe they wanted to avoid awkward questions about their job search progress. Is this situation manageable, or do you need any changes? I finally asked, reaching my breaking point. Even though I was contributing a significant amount of money to their support, I couldn't fathom why I deserved to be treated with such disrespect. One day, unable to hold it in any longer, I confronted them. Please leave now. They were shocked, not expecting such a direct challenge from me. But soon, their shock turned to anger. Their faces flushed with indignation. Who do you think you are? A mere wife giving orders to your husband's parents? They snapped. You're just a housewife, dependent on Jonathan's income. How many times do we have to tell you we're not interested in your delusional stories about working? I stood my ground, frustration and disbelief building up inside me. I'm not just a housewife. Enough of your outdated views. I retorted, but with malice in their eyes, they struck back with a hurtful suggestion. You should just leave this place, one of them said sharply. What? I exclaimed, shocked by their audacity. That's right, they sneered. It's because of you that Jonathan's remittance to us is so small. We're sending you $3,500 a month, right? What do you mean it's not enough? Their argument showed a complete lack of understanding about financial responsibility. Their words left me speechless. It was clear that no matter how much help we provided, they would always feel it wasn't enough. Their sense of entitlement had blinded them to the reality of our efforts and the strain their demands were causing. I stood there, still processing their words, as my in-laws glared at me with chilling disdain. Hey, how long are you going to stand there daydreaming? Pack your bags already, they demanded, their voices rising. Don't you understand what we're telling you? You're dense, aren't you? Stop leeching off our son for money. Get lost, you parasite of a wife. Their venomous sneers cut deep, and I realized there was no point in continuing the conversation. With surprising calm, I replied, Understood, I'll pack my things and leave. For a moment, they seemed stunned by my response. Then they smiled smugly, convinced they had won. Now our lives will finally be secure, they chuckled among themselves. If it were just the three of us, Jonathan and us, everything would have gone smoothly from the start. Ignoring their hurtful remarks, I began packing my belongings. I resolved to disappear as quickly as possible, silently watching them leave with looks of satisfaction on their faces. That night, when Jonathan came home, I explained everything that had transpired. He was more stunned than angry. Linda, I'm truly sorry, he apologized sincerely. It's okay, I replied. I realize now they'll never change. There's no point in trying anymore. Together, we decided to move out. A couple of weeks later, my in-laws called to check on the situation. So, what's the situation now? They asked, barely concealing their eagerness. Have you left the house? I've been trying to contact Jonathan about the remittances, but he seems too busy to answer the phone. We've already left, I replied coolly. You can rest easy. You won't see me in front of you anymore. I could hear the glee in their voices as they responded. Ah, I see. Finally, our son can get rid of the burden that was you. Hearing their laughter, I realized how liberating it was to be free from their manipulative grip. I felt confident in the strength of our small family unit and ready to start anew without the weight of their expectations and judgments. Now, with the promise of increased remittances from Jonathan, my in-laws were visibly pleased, laughing about how their lives would become easier. As they continued to ridicule and celebrate over the phone, a sigh escaped me. You had a lot to say about me, didn't you? I said sharply. It might be enlightening for you to realize who the real parasite is. Hearing my words, their tone shifted to anger. With that attitude, you truly are a hopeless daughter-in-law. Well, you're probably not even our daughter-in-law anymore. You might as well live a poor and lonely life, they snapped. Their delusions were so profound that I saw no point in correcting them. I offered some non-committal replies and ended the call. Shortly after, the phone rang again. Do you need something else? I asked as I picked up. My in-laws, now sounding panicked, bombarded me with questions. What the hell is going on? When we went to the apartment where Jonathan lives, someone else was living there. You know something, don't you? Even if you two broke up, tell me where Jonathan is. Jonathan, who had been listening in, took the phone from me. I've always been with Linda, he said firmly. Why are you with that woman, and why have the remittances to us stopped? Maybe because you insulted and tried to drive away my precious wife, Jonathan replied, his voice steady and resolved. I won't forgive anyone who hurts her, even if it's my parents. Besides, you never listened when Linda tried to explain her job and her contributions. Did you even realize that Linda was sending you more money than I was? Is that true, Linda? Jonathan turned to me. Were you sending them $3,500 every month because you wanted them to pay off their debts quickly? Yes, I confirmed. I want to help speed up their debt repayment. Yet all they did was insult me. I won't be sending anything to such ungrateful parents, Jonathan declared, ending the call. No more support for them. With that, we both felt a chapter close, a chapter filled with unappreciated sacrifices and undue criticism. It was a painful but necessary step toward protecting our peace and prioritizing our well-being as a couple. Jonathan firmly declared, I'm cutting ties with you as a family now. Deal with your debt on your own. In a moment of desperation, my in-laws pleaded, Wait, we had no idea Linda was contributing so much. Can you forgive us? Maybe then you can send money again. It's too late, just give it up, Jonathan replied, his voice resolute. He ended the call and blocked their number, ensuring that our paths would no longer cross. From what we later heard through relatives, my in-laws were forced to sell their house but still couldn't clear their debts. They now live in a rundown apartment, working low-wage jobs to scrape by. When they were prosperous with their restaurant, they reportedly treated their relatives with arrogance. Once their fortunes turned, they sought help from those same relatives, but they chose not to assist them, leaving them isolated and struggling in poverty. Jonathan and I had extended as much support as we could manage. We can't cover for them endlessly, I said. It's a consequence of their actions. I doubt they'll change their ways or attitudes, Jonathan added, and it seems they are resigned to live with the results of their choices. On a brighter note, Jonathan and I continue to cherish our time together as a working couple. A year later, unexpectedly, I became pregnant. Though it was a surprise, we are deeply grateful for this blessing. Together, with my beloved husband, we look forward to raising our precious child and embracing this new chapter of our lives filled with hope and joy.